He never imagined that his last morning coffee would also be his final goodbye. Today, we're stepping into the secret empire of a merengue legend. A man who didn't just make music, he built a kingdom behind closed doors. Hidden rooms, million-dollar cars, a private studio so exclusive, not even his closest friends were allowed inside. This is the untold story of Rubby Pérez, and what we're about to show you might just change the way you remember him. But here's the twist. Just days before his tragic accident, he was working on something no one was supposed to hear. What was he recording? Why did he isolate himself in that underground studio? And why, after his death, did one of his most prized possessions mysteriously disappear? You're not ready for this. So before we dive in, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because what you're about to see is more than just luxury. It's legacy, secrets, and maybe a goodbye that was never meant to be public. Let me ask you something. What would you hide to protect your legacy? Drop your answer in the comments. Our story begins in the hills of Altos de Arroyo Hondo, one of the most elite neighborhoods in Santo Domingo. Behind heavy gates and perfectly trimmed hedges sits a Mediterranean-style mansion worth over $3.5 million. But trust me, the price tag is just the beginning. This place was more than a home. It was Rubby's private universe. From the second you stepped through the door, you were greeted by an Italian marble staircase and a custom Murano chandelier designed by a world-renowned Venezuelan artist. Everything in that house screamed legacy. Every detail told a story. And then, there was the room. His master suite. Over 1,200 square feet of pure tailored elegance. Custom king bed. Walk-in closet stacked with iconic stage outfits worth over $200,000. A bathroom lined in marble, complete with a private sauna and jacuzzi. But the most intimate part, the terrace. That's where he spent his mornings. Black coffee, newspaper in hand, music sheets scattered on the table. No entourage, no distractions, just Rubby and the skyline. And that's also where he was last seen, calm, focused, reflective. Some say he was writing something. Others believe he was just saying goodbye. If that gave you chills, keep watching. On the lower level of the house, things got even more interesting. There was a private lounge fully soundproofed. Built for music, built for magic. That's where Rubby held his infamous jam sessions. Invite only. No cameras. Just raw, live music with the best of the best. Some of those nights went on until sunrise. One artist once said, "It felt like you were jamming with a god." But something about the place was strange. We were never allowed upstairs. What was up there? Why was it off limits? Let us know in the comments if you've ever felt someone close to you was hiding something. Because in this story, secrets are everything. Now let's move to the dining area. Imagine a 20-seat mahogany table, hand-carved by Dominican artisans. Above it, a chandelier made from gold-dipped miniature instruments, a gift from the National Musicians Association for his 40-year career. Every inch of this house was soaked in symbolism. Even the kitchen had a double personality, high-end tech paired with a traditional wood-burning stove. It was the domain of Doña Clara, his lifelong cook. Rumor has it, she was the only person allowed to make his favorite dish, sancocho. Once, a celebrity chef tried to impress Rubby with truffle risotto and imported wines. You know what Rubby did? He skipped the fancy dinner and went outside to eat with Doña Clara instead. That tells you everything. But wait, we haven't even gotten to the darkest, most mysterious part. The studio, hidden underground, built like a bunker, designed with one of the world's top acoustic engineers, valued at over $500,000 and updated constantly with the latest tech. This place was next level, a full Dolby Atmos production suite. It was here that Rubby recorded his last 3 albums. But according to his longtime partner, Mariana, he was working on something else just before the accident. new tracks, new lyrics. But here's the thing, none of them have ever been released. No files, no leaks, nothing. So, what happened to them? Were they erased? Hidden? Or was he planning something that still hasn't come to light? Inside that studio, the walls were covered with platinum and gold records, plus never before seen photos with legends: Celia Cruz, Gloria Estefan, Juan Luis Guerra. A personal museum of greatness, but also a place of silence, isolation, reflection, and maybe regret? You tell us. If you had one last chance to create something meaningful, would you do it in secret? Let's head outside. A jaw-dropping infinity pool blending into the Santo Domingo skyline. Surrounding it, palm trees, fruit trees, marble patios, and a full outdoor kitchen where Rubby hosted his legendary Sunday barbecues. No press. No photos. Just family. Friends. Laughter. But here's what people started noticing in the final weeks. His smile? A little tighter. His laugh? A little shorter. One guest said, it felt like he was saying goodbye without saying it out loud. Have you ever noticed someone acting strange, but didn't realize it was a cry for help? Comment below, we read everything. Now, here's something you probably didn't know. Rubby owned one of the rarest car collections in the Caribbean. But there was one car. One. A custom-built masterpiece worth over $1 million. A collector from Miami offered him a blank check. Rubby refused. He said, "This car holds my story, and my story is not for sale." And then, after his death, the car vanished. Gone. Not in the garage. Not in the inventory. Not even in his will. What happened to it? Was it stolen? Hidden? Or was it moved on purpose as part of something bigger? We'll get to that. Because in part 2 we uncover the car's last known location, explore the forbidden third floor, and reveal why some believe Rubby knew what was coming. But if you're still here, it means you felt something. So now, it's your turn. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and comment your theory. What was Rubby hiding in that studio? Because trust me, this story, we're just getting started. But no one saw it coming. That night, under flashing lights and thunderous applause, dressed in a flawless white suit, Rubby Pérez was just seconds away from his final moment on Earth. And this wasn't just a tragic accident. This was a disaster caught on camera, witnessed by hundreds, and surrounded by secrets that no one expected. To understand what really happened, we need to go back. Because behind the fame, the luxury, and the music, Rubby was building something much bigger than just a career. And what you're about to hear might just change the way you see him forever. Let's start with what most fans never got to see, his garage. We're not talking about just a couple of nice rides. We're talking about 6 hand-picked machines, sleek, powerful, and loaded with meaning. Front and center, a 2023 Bentley Continental GT, worth a cool $250,000, only brought out for the biggest moments. Next to it, a brand new S-Class Mercedes, his daily driver. But the crown jewel? That was his custom Porsche 911 Turbo Electric Blue, roaring like thunder and customized to match his signature color. To Rubby, it wasn't just a car. It was a symbol. He once said in an interview, "This is the perfect machine." Power and elegance, the same two things I've always chased in my music. Now think about that. What object in your life could describe you like that? That Porsche wasn't about ego. It was about identity. And then there was the 1967 Ford Mustang, fully restored, gleaming like it had just rolled off the lot. But this wasn't any collector's toy. It had belonged to his father. It was priceless not because of its age or engine, but because of what it represented. A memory. A connection to a childhood that Rubby never wanted to forget. Still think it was all about showing off. Because here's where it gets deeper. While the industry speculated about his net worth around $25 million, the truth was, Rubby didn't just earn money, he multiplied it. At his peak, he was doing over 100 shows a year, earning anywhere from 30 to 100 grand per concert. But that wasn't the impressive part. He invested. Smart. He owned high-end real estate in Punta Cana and Samana, some of the most luxurious locations in the Dominican Republic. He had shares in one of the most advanced recording studios in the Caribbean. And he had a financial team in both the Diocto and the US, making sure his wealth grew steadily. This wasn't luck. This was strategy. But wait, there's one more part of his world that fans almost never got to see. His private art collection. And we're not talking random wall art. We're talking over $1.2 million worth of carefully selected Dominican and Caribbean masterpieces. Paintings from legends like Cándido Bidó and Rubby Pérez, along with rising artists Rubby personally discovered and supported. Why? Because he believed in his culture. And he didn't just collect these paintings, he connected with them. He once told a friend that his favorite pieces were those that showed rural life scenes of the island, the fields, the people. They reminded him of where he came from. They kept him grounded. Now here's the twist. Despite the luxury cars, the private beach house, and the million-dollar art, Rubby lived with shocking simplicity. He could dine in the most expensive Manhattan restaurant one day and eat mango with salami from a street vendor in Santo Domingo the next. He was both worlds in one body. And the most powerful thing? His generosity. Every year, he quietly donated around 15% of his income to music programs, scholarships, and education for underprivileged kids. No flashy press. No social media stunts. Just real help behind the scenes. He made sure his success never made him distant. Never made him arrogant. That's why even the most skeptical critics respected him. That's why fans loved him, because he never stopped being real. But what if I told you that none of that, not the cars, not the art, not the fortune, was the thing that made his eyes light up the most? What truly had him dreaming like a kid again was a villa. A massive creative retreat he was building in La Romana. Not for himself, for the next generation of musicians. 5,000 square meters of paradise. Open-air amphitheater. Guest artist cabins. A state-of-the-art recording studio, potentially the best in the entire hemisphere. It was his passion project. His physical legacy. His way of saying, you don't have to leave the island to create greatness. Construction had just begun, 3 months before everything changed. And then came April 8. Jet Set nightclub. Santo Domingo. A legendary spot, just reopened after a massive $3 million renovation. Politicians, celebrities, influencers, everyone was there. The energy was electric. And Rubby? He was the headliner. He delayed a trip to Puerto Rico with his girlfriend Mariana just to be there for the big relaunch. At 11:25 p.m., he walked on stage. Wearing that famous all-white suit, glowing under the lights, commanding the room like only he could. He opened with Enamorado de Ella. The crowd went wild. Then came Buscando tus besos and Por tu querer. Each song hit harder than the last. The room was vibrating. It felt like magic. But then 11:42 p.m. Something cracked. Loud. Sharp, but utterly wrong. The cameras picked it up. Rubby paused mid-song, looked up, exchanged a glance with his band. Then with a calm voice, said into the mic, "Looks like we've got a small technical issue, but the show must go on." And he kept playing. Because that's who he was. Always the professional. Always in control. But just 7 seconds later, the ceiling came down. 12 square meters of roof, plus the brand new lighting system, crashed straight onto the stage. Rubby and several band members were hit instantly. But it wasn't just the stage. The collapse triggered a domino effect. Other parts of the ceiling gave out across the club. Dust exploded into the air. Screams filled the space. People panicked, scrambling in darkness. The power was out. The exits? Blocked. One emergency door was partially covered by sound equipment. It became chaos. One survivor said it felt like the end of the world. Like everything was moving in slow motion. People screamed for help, but you couldn't tell where the screams were coming from. You couldn't see. You couldn't breathe. And that confusion is what made it worse. Many tried to run and ran straight into more danger. Secondary collapses hit minutes later. And in some areas, help just didn't arrive in time. Firefighters showed up about 12 minutes after the initial collapse. But the building was too unstable. They couldn't just rush in. The chief later said, "This was one of the most complex rescue missions we've faced in decades." The structure was falling apart. The air was thick with smoke and debris. And people were buried deep. And here's the haunting part. Some of the nightclub staff later admitted they'd heard strange sounds earlier that evening. Creaking. Groaning. They thought it was the new ventilation system. All the sound checks. No one ever imagined the roof was about to give out. So now we ask the question, was this really just a freak accident? Or were there signs that people ignored? Let me know what you think in the comments. Because the more we uncover, the more chilling this story becomes. And what comes next? You're not ready. Nobody, and I mean nobody, was ready for what came next. Not Mariana. Not the rescue team. Not the country. When they finally reached him, Rubby was still alive. Trapped? Yes. Broken? Absolutely. But conscious. And what he said in those final moments, it changed everything. Mariana found him under a steel beam crushing his legs. But his face still had that same calm expression we all knew from his performances. That look of someone who knows they're about to walk through a door the rest of us can't even see. "Stay calm," he whispered. "We're gonna be okay." Can you even imagine that? In the middle of total chaos, bleeding out, crushed, dying, and still trying to comfort the woman he loved. But then, he started talking. Fast. Like he knew time was running out. He made her promise to protect his legacy. To never let the music die. He talked about his kids, even the ones Mariana didn't always get along with. He begged her to look after them. And then he dropped a bombshell no one saw coming. They were planning to get married. In December. A secret wedding. Intimate. Magical. During a concert to celebrate his 70th birthday. He was going to tell the world that night. But now, that night will never come. And it gets even deeper. They were trying for a baby. Yup. At 69 years old, Rubby Pérez still had dreams of being a father again. They were going through fertility treatments. No one knew. Not the press. Not even close friends. Just them. Until Mariana, barely able to speak, told the world. When rescue teams finally pulled him out, it was past 1:30 in the morning. He was rushed to the hospital. Twice on the way, his heart stopped. Twice they brought him back. He was fighting. Doctors threw everything they had at him. Emergency surgery. Transfusions. Every machine. Every drug. But the damage was just too much. At 4:22 a.m., Rubby Pérez was gone. And that silence ripped through the Dominican Republic like a thunderclap. The president declared 3 days of national mourning. Flags at half-staff. Streets filled with music. Fans sobbing in front of hospitals and radio stations. Because Rubby wasn't just an artist, he was the soundtrack of a generation. But as the tears flowed, the truth came out. And it was ugly. The building where the concert was held. It wasn't safe. It had been illegally remodeled. No permits. No structural studies. Columns removed. Beams drilled through for air conditioning. A time bomb. And the worst part, the city approved it. Corrupt officials looked the other way, stamped permits, took bribes. They killed him, not directly, but with their silence, their carelessness. Esteban Ramirez, the nightclub owner who invited Rubby that night as a personal favor, now faces charges for manslaughter, falsifying documents, and endangering public safety. He could spend 20 years in prison. And he's not the only one. The engineer, 2 city officials, the head of maintenance, they're all under criminal investigation. But no amount of trials or jail time will bring Rubby back. And that's the part that burns. Because Rubby wasn't on his way out. He was on fire, planning a European tour, recording an album with young artists to bridge generations, writing his autobiography, getting married, having a baby. He was living. And now, silence. What do you even do with that kind of pain? Mariana visits the collapse site often. Sometimes she speaks. Sometimes she just listens. Because somewhere in the wind, she swears she still hears his voice. And I can't stop thinking about what she said in that interview. He didn't want to go. It wasn't his time. He had so many plans. He did. And he left so much behind. But also, something unforgettable. He left us. His music. His story. His unbreakable spirit. So let me ask you this. What would you do if the love of your life whispered their deepest dreams, just minutes before dying? Drop a comment. I read them all. What part of this story hit you the hardest? The secret wedding? The baby? The way he held on? And if this story moved you, do me a favor, hit that like button. Share this with someone who loved Rubby. Subscribe so you never miss these behind-the-scenes stories. Because trust me, what I have coming next will blow your mind. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next video.